Hi, everyone. Hugo set the scene really well for why this data and geospatial data especially is really important. And I'll just take us a little bit more into the details on what is new about the LandMark platform, which the Bezos Earth Fund so generously supported, and we just released last week. So using the information gathered from our student group members and 9 years of lessons learned since LandMark was first launched in 2015, we just released a redesigned and enhanced version of the LandMark platform to make it more relevant to the needs of Indigenous peoples, local communities, and their supporters like the Samaka. I'll spend a few minutes showing some of the new features and encourage everyone to visit landmarkmap.org, or you can visit our demo table in the lobby as well. So we dedicated the past year to refining and expanding the coverage of Indigenous peoples and local communities, lands, and territories on the platform. With support from regional experts and guided mapping efforts, LandMark now has map coverage showing 33.9% of the world is held or used by Indigenous peoples and local communities, bringing us much closer to the 50% or more figure that experts have long estimated is actually held and used by Indigenous peoples and local communities worldwide. So this is a significant increase over the 12.3% that had been mapped on LandMark previously before we started this dedicated initiative. But given that we are still not yet at 50%, it means that there are still gaps in coverage and more work needed to be done to fill these gaps. And so I'll walk through a few of the data enhancements a bit more. As before, LandMark provides information at two scales, community level and national level, allowing users to compare the land tenure situation both within countries and across countries. There are also contextual data layers on biodiversity and climate, land use, land cover, and change. These layers provide information on environmental factors within and surrounding the territories. Updated national level data provides estimates of how much land within a country is held or used by Indigenous peoples and local communities in total, as well as how much of that area is acknowledged by government or not acknowledged by government. And if you click on any particular country, such as Colombia, you're directed to contextual information about the land rights situation in the country, including more detail on the area of land held, the Indigenous population and ethnic groups, and links to more information. This information can be especially useful for national governments and other parties in reporting to monitoring frameworks like Target 3 of the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, which requests information on the extent of Indigenous peoples and local communities' lands that have some form of recognition. So the community level data on LandMark shows more geographically precise detail on where Indigenous peoples and local communities hold and use land, which are defined under 3 categories of geospatial data. The first is Indigenous peoples' lands and territories and local communities' lands, which are disaggregated by government recognition status as more information on their tenure security. The second data layer is on indicative areas of Indigenous and community land rights, which are approximate areas of where Indigenous peoples and local communities hold or use land, but where more precise information on location or recognition might be lacking. And finally, there are data on Indigenous and community natural resource rights, which shows where Indigenous peoples and local communities have access rights to forests, pastures for grazing, or hunting and fishing areas. And if you are to zoom in and you click on any one of these boundary areas, such as this land in Peru, you're directed to a panel with more detail about the selected land, which includes information like the name of the community and data title, the original source of the data, and link to the original source, as well as an opportunity to harness the contextual data layers to conduct an analysis. So if you scroll down here, and selecting that same Indigenous territory, you can analyze forest-related greenhouse gas fluxes, which show, in a second, that this territory is a net carbon sink, removing much more carbon from the atmosphere over the last 20 years than it has emitted. And another analysis you can perform is on tree cover loss, which shows the annual pattern of forest loss, which could then be related back to pressures on the territory, like mining or logging concessions, which you can see overlap here. Other analytics you can perform include intersection of key biodiversity areas, intact forest landscapes, primary forests, biodiversity intactness, and these all show the value and role of territories in protecting many of the most pristine ecosystems in the world. And finally, there's a lot of new information, but I'll just kind of give a brief overview of the other elements. You can go through the data and methods, which has thorough explanations of the sources. You can also request data to download through a form. There's also a help desk for any assistance you may need in interpreting data. So I invite you all to please explore landmarkmap.org. And please also ask any questions you may have. And I'm glad I timed that pretty well for the recording.